Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Michael. So Michael, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Michael Luckey. I live in Sacramento, California, and what I do for a living, right now I'm focused on two areas. So I have co-founder of a SaaS company called Rally Corp. We've been at that for about a little over 6 years, and we primarily develop SaaS. We have a SaaS platform that's focused on the nonprofit market where we develop mobile messaging tools. So we have a SaaS platform that integrates with, CRM and systems that nonprofits use to help them and engage their donor base and engage people who believe in their cause, and then help them kind of activate their mission. And then the other thing I work on is I also have a consultancy where I help primarily early stage B2B founders, or just mainly early stage startup founders, help them scale their kind of growth operations. So really helping them getting all their metrics or foundation of their marketing tools and systems in order for them to scale.
Makes sense. So in terms of your current company that you're running, so what gave you the idea to start this company?
So we're talking about Rally Corp. My co-founder and I, we started that. He had come kind of from he had an exit in the same kind of industry, and we were kind of looking to solve this engagement problem that some of these organizations were having. And we were looking at what the medium, right? And one of the issues that we were running is there was a lot, at the time when we started, app fatigue was a big issue, right? So asking people to download your app if you're an organization, that was getting increasingly hard to do because there's proliferation of apps, right? So as we know that most people have a ton of apps on their phone and they use a very small percentage of them. So app wasn't kind of the channel we wanted to go into. Email started, that was also one that was kind of getting crowded. And so we landed on text messaging for that because it was something that we wanted to find something that everybody has on their phone. Everybody has a messaging app, like a text messaging app on their phone. So that's how we landed on that. And then that was the medium. And then we just started building from there. The market we kind of went into was because that's where we got our early traction. We got our early traction in with nonprofits. We didn't set out to develop tools for them, right? But the more traction and more customers we got, we decided we had to double down. And that's why we have what we'd call kind of like a vertically integrated SaaS product. And then if you wanted my consultancy, that came about, had customers and clients that needed help outside of what our software could do. And so I would help them with certain things. And then from there, I decided this is probably something that I could kind of carve its own little business out of. And then I started doing that about the beginning of this year. So I have a few clients and I kind of work with select clients and then help them go from, being either where the founder's doing marketing or the founder's doing marketing sales, and they're ready to kind of go in the growth, but they need the framework in order to make sure that they're spending. So I ran into this where people are ready to start either hiring a marketing agency or they're really to outsource their marketing, but they don't have the groundwork in their company, right? So they're not able to get their attribution correct, right? They don't know their tax, so they don't really have confidence in going and adding new channels, or they do, and then they spend money on channels that don't work. So I help them kind of get in a situation so that they're ready to go, and then they can start adding new marketing channels.
Makes sense. So in terms of how you're working on a consulting way with your customers or clients, what does that look like? Are they paying you more per month, or do you charge an hourly rate? How are you able to? Because obviously, I think with non-for-profits is, many people have this perception they don't have large budgets. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So for my consulting, I don't really work with the nonprofits, right? So all my consultants are for profit. So mostly for profit B2B SaaS companies. I have a couple of e-commerce companies I work with. So those are kind of separate. So the SaaS side that's straight a SaaS play, right? So that's we have monthly subscription fees. Obviously, we have expansion revenue, so people can get in. We can add different features depending on the plan. That's a traditional kind of SaaS model for Rally Corp. For my consulting business, I started out as a basically just fractional, right? So I'd come in and you needed either like you would call it maybe a fractional CMO or fractional rev off, somebody revenue rev off. And that's how I kind of started out, right? So the organization I work with didn't have either they weren't big enough or they didn't have the budget to hire someone full time internally, or they needed someone to help them build the systems out to then figure out like who get them in place to bring someone internally. So that's how I started. What I've transitioned to is I do an audit. So that's kind of like primarily entry point. I have an audit that kind of is pretty comprehensive that goes over, I'll make sure all their metrics and everything are dialed in, make sure they're calculating their CAC, they know their CAC payback period, and getting all that dialed in. And then from there, they can take that and either go with it and take it to their team and they can deploy it, or then I have a done with you. So I'll help them, I'll coach them along. Here's the things that we identified. Here's ways I believe that we can improve upon them. And then they take those, I kind of guide them through. And then I also have like a done for you model. It's like, here's everything we found. And then you don't want to do it, hand it over to us. And then we'll take it and kind of implement it for you. So that's how that answers your question.
Right. So in terms of like the nonprofit, right? So so let's just go back to that product, right? Because I guess I'm curious, like, what is your pricing structure and how do you make money? Because as we spoke about, right, it's like that non-for-profits don't often have, lots of budget. So how much are you charging for it? Yeah.
I would say that sometimes that's also a misconception too, because we typically really try to focus on the nonprofits that operate more as a business. I would say that because let me phrase it. Our target is we usually focus on nonprofits that have there's certain criteria. They have over an X amount of like online giving in a year. They typically have actually paid employees versus everyone is volunteer, right? So those are like different distinctions. So as you do that, then you start getting, and we just kind of honestly, there's price to the market and price to value, right? So we always try to like create as much value as possible. And then we have multiple tiers, right? So it's typical SaaS. So we have like an entry level, mid level that most people, and then we have an enterprise level that's kind of customized depending. So we run from, small organization, maybe have 5 to 10 employees, all the way to, we're serving, I think we have 7 of the top 10, largest nonprofits in the world, right? That are our customers. And so for them, those top tier, they're going to have, custom depending on their needs. It's more custom plans, right? And it's custom options you kind of bundle. And then from there, the other ones are pretty standardized, right? You get a standardized set of features. And then we also have usage-based tiers, right? So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, yeah. I think that's a good point. I was just asking because I think that you're absolutely right. Many people do have that misconception. I mean, I myself, I used to do consulting work, a couple of years ago for Newman's Own, and they're a non-for-profit, but they do very well. And so people have this perception that, to your point, non-for-profits don't have any budget. But there is a budget and there is employee expenses, especially when it comes to a company like that that's actually making physical products, and the profits are going to charity. Technically, are a non-for-profit. So there's lots of technicality. So can you just talk about specifically more of the value of the customer experience? So if somebody was going to buy your product, like what exactly does that look like for a non-for-profit?
Yeah. So for us, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's we're moving even more into a product-led, SaaS product, but it's literally just go to the website, click sign up, and then you get your account. And then we have a great onboarding staff. We have great customer support. And that's kind of where what we've done is what differentiates us between a lot of our competitors, I would say, is we've gone deep in the nonprofit. Like we build the solution for our customers versus a lot of our competitors have taken an existing solution and then try to just create use cases that apply to the nonprofit, right? So this is how you could use our software in your situation. Whereas we have actually thought through and develop the product so that it meets the needs of our target market, right? And so that's why it goes from our integration partners, right? So our integration partners are all within the same space, right? We're all tools that our nonprofit customers would use. All of our trainings, all of our guides, everything is kind of developed for them. And then we just make it as easy as possible, right? So basically, come to the website, pick your plan, sign up, and then our customer support team reaches out to you, kind of guides you through that. So it's kind of a mix of the product leads, but then we also have that support to back you up, and then make sure that you're hitting those. Like we have kind of like milestones, right? And like how other organizations have been successful, and then we help people like deploy those playbooks.
Right. So when it comes to these partners, the integration partners, like are they specific non-for-profit companies you're integrating with, like CRMs, like HubSpot? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so that looks like it's either kind of two ways. We look at it, what the needs of our current customers are, right? So we are always surveying our current customers and seeing, what could make our product better, and then also just looking kind of like at their workflow, like what tools are they using? Because nonprofits we typically run in, they usually have like a CRM system, right? And that could be something like HubSpot, but it could also be their CRMs out there that are specifically for nonprofits. Then they usually have like some sort of either donor management or a donation management platform. And sometimes they're all connected, but sometimes they're separate, and then sometimes they can also have a payment processor. So they have all these kind of different, and then we just try to meet the needs of our current customers, and then also identify customers that either we would like to attract, or ones that meet kind of the ideal persona. Like, okay, these are our current customers and they're using these tools, or let's go find other, we know if we do these integrations that potentially we can bring in more customers. And then it's also the partners too, right? Because it's kind of a two ways. We also look at, what's the partnership going to be, right? Because obviously we're a very small company, so we integrate with HubSpot. And that's everything's kind of like R&R end, right? So that's one, and we look at that because of just how big HubSpot is, right? Like obviously it makes sense for us because we have a lot of people. They have a lot of people on there, and a lot of people use it. Then we also have integration partners that it's kind of a two-way street, right? Where like we refer customers, they refer customers, and we do content together. And so it kind of depends. Either I'd say the size of your install base, or is it going to be an actual like partnership, right? Are we going to like work together and those kind of things? We kind of evaluate it like that, where we'd have two separate, like obviously the sales forces and the HubSpots are going to be one tier or one category, we'd say, just because they're install based. And that's going to be kind of more of a straight, product integration play. And then we also kind of like partner integrations where we look at who would be the ideal partner for us. And then if they're make sure that, the tech stack all line up. And it's all about improving the customer experience, right?
Right. So in terms of improving your customer experience, 'cause it seems like you've done like a very good job with that. What are some of the things that you do to make sure that your customers are happy? Like, do you have meetings once a month? Do you have like a Slack channel? Like, how are you keeping this level of communication at a high level so you understand their pain points and challenges and serve them in the best possible manner?
Yeah, so we have a couple methods. So we don't have a Slack channel or anything like that. We've looked into it. What we started is when we have direct. So we have a couple of things. We have surveys. So we do like combination of email surveys, and we have in-app surveys, right? And those are a couple touch points. Then we also have customer advisory boards, right? So we have customer based on like, okay, these are our top customers, and we have advisory. And we also have advisory where we have advisors in certain I would say types of organizations, right? So the nonprofit charity causes, there's social justice, there's animal causes, there's hospital networks. So we have there's education foundations. So we have like those kind of buckets, and then we have who like these advisors for those, because some of those verticals have different needs, right? And so that's how we kind of do that. And then we're just constantly, we have really good customer service. So, we're always talking to our customers, always asking them, we do NPS surveys and that kind of stuff. And then we also have our product roadmap. So that is inside our platform, we always have a link to our product, like what's been released, what's currently being working on. and then, future considerations, so that then we can try to get our user base to feed us ideas, right? And then try to work on things and features and issues and stuff that are important to our, making sure that we're always trying to improve. So those are some of the channels and methods that we use.
Right. So, I mean, but it's like, do you have, I mean, I guess like how many customers like are you serving right now? Because I'm sure that's, like as you serve more people, right, it can be probably, more challenging to have that level of communication, like unless I say like you're hiring more people, like what does that look like for you at this moment?
Yeah. So I think it depends. So obviously we have like a full like support like system, right? It's full support ticketing system. And, it's, we start we start with doing things that can't scale. And then from there, trying to figure like how to scale it, right? Because I think if we started from like, we're only going to create a system that can scale infinitely, then we wouldn't provide enough like look like personal touch at that level, right? So we always try to like, we start with like what we can do at the moment. And then we always try to like, one, remove complexity. And then we are always looking to like adapt to different channels, right? For us, I think maybe one of the distinctions is that we're mostly like almost like think of us as a B2B SaaS company, right?
Right.
So most of our users are either they come through, they're like buying from the organization standpoint. So meaning like we're not a B2C company. We don't have, we're not really B2C, and we're not B2B to B2C. Meaning like we're not like, let's say like Asana, where an individual signs up for Asana, they can use it for their own task manager, and then they can invite their team, right? So most of ours comes the other way, where the organization comes in. So it helps us. I mean, one, when you're talking about, is that most of our, like when we talk about our accounts, it's an organization, right? Versus we don't have like our user install base wouldn't be as high as like a B2C company. So we're not dealing with tens of thousands, because we're dealing with primarily at that account base, right? If that makes sense. So we start with most of the time we start with the organization. Those are our customers, and then they have users obviously inside the account. That makes it a little bit easier to manage, because we're not a low like a we're not a product. Usually it's designed for the organization, or that's how everyone's been using it so far. So that's helped us kind of scale to not have to. We haven't ran into those issues yet, just because we're dealing primarily with the organization level. Right?
Right. So what is the biggest challenge you're facing overall in the business?
The biggest challenge, I would say, I think initially it was, establishing product market fit. Like that was one thing. And I think that's something we always like constantly are trying to. And then I think what we run into is trying to probably figure out ways to shorten the buying cycle. So our market tends to, we have a lot of there's committees and stuff get involved like in the decision-making process, right? So trying to develop solutions, or even just like marketing material, or that to accelerate that process. Like try to like find ways to make it so it's not like a big scary like, oh, we're going to go in to deploy this new technology, right? Like trying to like start small and then like expand with our customers. So probably shortening just the buying, and then it's when you're a startup, probably I would say just getting in front of enough people, right? Like getting eyeballs, because we don't have unlimited budgets, right? We don't have a limit, so we got to do different tactics, right? We don't
Are you
have
bootstrapped?
Yeah, so we've done a couple small seed rounds, but primarily bootstrapped. We just did close a seed round about 6 months ago. So we have outside investors, but what we've done is we've kept it to like basically we haven't taken any institutional money. So we have investors that believe in what we're doing, and have given us the freedom to kind of take the company in the direction we see best, and make those decisions based on what's good for the company and what's good for the customer. So that's been nice. We're not so far. We haven't been in a position where we're worried about always getting that next funding round, which sometimes happens when you take PC money or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense. I would just ask, so like, if we would have this discussion again in 1 year from now, where do you see things going for the business?
So I see it. I feel like we're really on the cusp right now, and I think we'll probably, I'd say, at least double our revenue in the next year. And I think that this next year is going to be probably one of the best years for a company. So I have high hopes. I mean, we're making a ton of progress. We got a great team, and things are really starting to roll. So should be good.
Well, we're definitely rooting for you. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out, do you mind sharing your website or social media handle, just best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get in contact with me would be probably LinkedIn, and it's LinkedIn, /IN, whatever. And it's Michael Luckey, and it's all one word. So Michael and then Luckey, Lucky, and just hit me up on LinkedIn. And that's probably the best way.
So, well, Michael, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can chat again in 1 year from now as your company keeps scaling and growing.
Yeah, sounds good. Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Thank you.